type "I feel" on your phone. Before you finish the sentence, 3 suggestions may appear: happy, sad, tired. Your keyboard is already guessing how the sentence might end. Predictive keyboards today do far more than correcting spellings. Systems like Gboard and Microsoft SwiftKey are trained on massive language data, looking at patterns across billions of sentences to suggest the most likely next word. In a way, your phone is not just correcting your sentence, but it is completing it. At first, this feels harmless, even helpful. You type faster and conversations flow easily, but if you pause, an uncomfortable question emerges. Are these tools just helping us communicate, or are they slowly shaping how we think as well? The relationship is not one-sided. While we train these systems with our words by using them every day, we might also be letting them train us back. Humans have always been looking to outsource thinking, a concept psychologists call cognitive offloading. We shift mental effort to tools around us like calculators for math, GPS for routes, and search engines for facts. Consequently, instead of remembering everything, we remember where to find it. A study by Betsy Sparrow, a psychology professor at Columbia University, in 2011 showed that when people knew information would be saved, they were less likely to remember the information itself, focusing instead on its location. This became to be known as the Google effect. Now apply this to language. Forming a sentence involves searching your memory, choosing words, and arranging them carefully to convey what we intended. It is an active, constructive process. Increasingly now, we just look at suggestions on a phone screen and let them complete our thoughts and sentences. The focus has now shifted from creating to selecting. This might seem like a small change, but the brain does not treat repetition as small. Through neuroplasticity, the brain physically changes based on what it repeatedly does. A famous study by neuroscientist Eleanor Maguire looked at London taxi drivers who had to memorize complex street maps. Over time, the part of their brain linked to spatial memory actually grew larger, meaning their daily practice reshaped their physical biology. The same pattern appears everywhere, from musicians to mathematicians. What you practice, your brain strengthens. If we slowly practice selecting words instead of constructing them, we must wonder what kind of brain patterns we are strengthening. These systems do not understand meaning. They work on probability. They analyze data sets to learn which words usually follow others, suggesting what is most common, expected, and average. This is where something subtle begins to happen. Common phrases appear more often, while unusual or creative ones appear less. If millions of people keep selecting the same suggestions, language starts moving toward those patterns, not because we are forced to, but because it is easier and faster. Humans have always picked up language from their surroundings, borrowing phrases from books or memes. However, there is difference here. While we debate how AI is trained on our data, we often ignore how we are being trained in return. Every time we accept a suggestion, we are exposed to certain patterns and sentence flows. Over time, these patterns settle into how we naturally write. This could explain why human written text is increasingly flagged as AI generated. It's not always that the tool is wrong, but that human writing is starting to resemble the machine's statistical averages. The gap between how machines write and how humans write is shrinking. This matters because language is not just for communication, it shapes how we think and understand the world. Take emotions, for example. Research by psychologist Lisa Feldman Barrett shows that people who can distinguish between specific emotions like feeling overwhelmed versus just sad are better at regulating them. This is called emotional granularity. More words mean more clarity. Yet, predictive systems suggest simpler, highly probability phrases like "I'm fine" or "I'm okay." If we choose these more often because they are right there, our emotional vocabulary may shrink. And when vocabulary shrinks, thinking shrinks with it. Words are tools for thought. If you only have few words, you can only make a few distinctions. Subtle differences blur together, and complex feelings becomes harder to explain, even to yourself. This also affects our outward communication. When everyone uses similar words and structures, conversations may become smoother, but they also become vapid. Nuance is reduced, and it becomes harder to express unique disagreements because language becomes more general and less precise. Writing has always been a way for people to leave a signature of themselves. You could tell who wrote something just by the rhythm of their prose. But if suggestions nudge us towards the same patterns, those unique edges soften. There is also a cultural layer to consider. Language carries identity, slang, regional phrases, and personal quirks reflecting where we come from. Systems trained on global datasets favors what is most common across the majority. Less common expressions appears less often, and local diversity in language might become less visible in everyday life. None of this happens overnight. It is slow and almost invisible, which makes it easy to ignore. It is also important to stay balanced. Language has always evolved with technology. The printing press standardized spelling, and the typewriter shaped sentence structure. Predictive AI may just be the next step in this evolution. However, the scale is different. For the first time, billions of people are in a constant daily conversation with systems that learn from them and instantly suggest language back. This brings us to a technical warning known as model collapse. As more AI-generated texts fill the internet, future models are trained on that synthetic, average data. If humans also started writing like the models to save time, we enter a loop of diminishing returns where the diversity of the dataset shrinks. If we optimize entirely for speed, we might accidentally delete the unpredictability that makes human communication valuable. Language is how we think, remember, and feel. Predictive systems make life easier, but they also create a feedback loop where we train the machine and the machine shapes us back. We should treat predictive text like a suggested route rather than a mandatory path. We need to maintain a critical, scientific temper, as suggested by the principles of staying curious and analytical about the tools we use. Science communication isn't just about making things simple, it's about making them clear without losing the complexity of the human experience. If we let our language converge to the point of predictability, we aren't just making writing laster, we're blurring the line between who is teaching whom. Are we training the AI to be more human, or the AI is training us to be a model? In that blur, the most important thing we can hold on to is the low probability word, the one the keyboard didn't see coming, and that is where the soul of communication lives.